Hi, welcome to Books and Bocadillos. My name is Mariandrea, and today I am doing day 6 of the Poetry Readathon. The Poetry Readathon is hosted by Charlie at Charlie Brick Reads and Charles at Charles Heathcote. And day 6, I will be focusing on prompt number 6, which is try something new. Initially, when I first watched the announcement videos, I thought, oh, I am going to try something new off of my wish list. And so I went down my wish list and I saw that I had this book on it. And I thought, perfect, it's perfect timing. I really want to read this collection. So I purchased it. The collection is The World Keeps Ending and the World Goes On, poems by Franny Choi. I'll read the back. That way you get a sense of what this is about. A poetry collection for the ends of worlds, past, present, and future. With lyric and tonal dexterity, these poems spin backward and forward in time, from Korean comfort women during World War II to the precipice of climate crisis to children wandering a museum in the future. As Choi wrestles with the daily griefs and expanses of this apocalyptic world, she also imagines what togetherness between Black and Asian and other marginalized communities, between living organisms, between children of calamity and conquest could look like, bringing together choice, signature, speculative imagination, and musicality. The World Keeps Ending and the World Goes On offers new paths toward hope in the aftermaths and visions for our collective survival. So, apocalyptic, speculative. I'm kind of getting a sense that this may be a little dystopian, and those are all words that really strike a chord of interest with me. I'm really excited to get to this. I ended up changing paths this week. So, I will not be reading from this collection today, but this will be a book that I will be reading in the coming weeks. I'll start it this week and I'll continue on with it, and you'll hear about it again, I'm sure, on this channel. So what ended up happening is that I then connected with Hillary from Book Bustle on BookTube. I can't remember if the conversation started on her channel or mine, but it was back and forth, commenting about poetry. And she mentioned to me that one of her favorite poets of all time is Billy Collins. Initially, I was like, I've never heard of Billy Collins. That's a new to me poet. But then I did a search and I found, oh yeah, this collection from Billy Collins, I think it's called Musical Tables, is on my wish list. And so I mentioned that to Hillary, and she came back and said, well, she would recommend this as a starting point for Billy Collins. And this is Aimless Love, New and Selected Poems by Billy Collins. And I thought I must be living under a rock because the blurb here from the Wall Street Journal says that Billy Collins is America's favorite poet. And living in the United States, how did I not know America's favorite poet? So I thought I'm going to purchase this on Hillary's recommendation and make this my try something new. Then I was really excited to connect with Pat from Book Chat with Pat. I think that's the name of her channel. Pat, if I got it wrong, I'm sorry. I will link both Hillary and Pat in the description box. So I just found Pat's channel this week and we've been commenting back and forth about poetry. I watched her videos and she recently posted a video in which she read from this collection. So I thought I'm in really great hands if both Hillary and Pat are recommending Billy Collins' work. So I popcorn read my way through this today. My husband and I were on a road trip and I just had him give me a number between this and that, and he would give me a number and then I would go and read the poem on that page. It was fun. So I didn't finish, but I did read through like sections of different sections in this collection. So, excuse me. The first poem I will be reading is titled The First Night. And the way that this poem is structured is the top part, it starts out with quoting another poem, and then it goes into the poem. So, The First Night. The worst thing about death must be the first night, by Jose Ramon Jimenez. Before I opened you, Jimenez, it never occurred to me that day and night would continue to circle each other in the ring of death. But now you have me wondering if there will also be a sun and a moon, and will the dead gather to watch them rise and set, then repair each soul alone to some ghastly equivalent of a bed? Or will the first night be the only night, a long darkness for which we have no other name? How feeble our vocabulary in the face of death, how impossible to write it down. This is where language will stop. The horse we have ridden all our lives, rearing up at the edge of a dizzying cliff. The word that was in the beginning and the word that was made flesh, those and all other words will cease. Even now, reading you on this trellised porch, how can I describe a sun that will shine after death? But it is enough to frighten me into paying more attention to the world's day moon, to sunlight bright on water or fragmented in a grove of trees, and to look more closely here at these small leaves, these sentinel thorns whose employment is to guard the rose. Excuse me. What really connected with me about this poem is that Billy Collins is writing a poem in response to another poem. And this same thing happened to me yesterday. So there's a prompt in the Poetry Readathon that is to read a full poetry collection. So I will be sharing about that poetry collection in another video. But in reading that poetry collection during my lunch break yesterday, I just started crying. Like, I read a poem from that collection that just brought me to tears. And I immediately wanted to take out pen and paper and write a poem about a poem, write a poem in response to the poet's work, and tell this poet that she made me cry. um, and and I felt that. So when I read this, I thought like, oh, Billy Collins, I get you. I get that experience when you read a poem and something strikes a chord with you that you can't stop thinking about, and it like a tumbleweed sends your thoughts into like a spiral, right? Like your thoughts become a tumbleweed of thoughts, like of thoughts and emotions evoked by this one phrase or this fragment of a poem or of a thought. And I think that's great. I think that's beautiful. That's wonderful. That's like magical. That's what poetry is supposed to do. So I felt like I could relate to Billy Collins in this poem. And so that's why I picked it. The next one is just a really great poem. Excuse my allergies. Okay. The next poem is titled The Great American Poem. The Great American Poem. If this were a novel, it would begin with a character, a man alone on a southbound train, or a young girl on a swing by a farmhouse. And as the pages turned, you would be told that it was morning or the dead of night, and I, the narrator, would describe for you the miscellaneous clouds over the farmhouse, and what the man was wearing on the train, right down to his red tartan scarf, and the hat he tossed onto the rack above his head, as well as the cows sliding past his window. Eventually, one can only read so fast, you would learn either that the train was bearing the man back to the place of his birth, or that he was headed into the vast unknown. And you might just tolerate all of this as you waited patiently for shots to ring out in a ravine where the man was hiding, or for tall, raven-haired woman to appear in a doorway. But this is a poem, and the only characters here are you and I. Alone in an imaginary room, which will disappear after a few more lines, leaving us no time to point guns at one another or toss all our clothes into a roaring fireplace. I ask you, who needs the man on the train? And who cares what his black valise contains? We have something better than all this turbulence, lurching towards some ruinous conclusion. I mean, the sound that we will hear as soon as I stop writing and put down this pen. I once heard someone compare it to the sound of crickets in a field of wheat, or, more faintly, just the wind over that field, stirring things that we will never see. And that is The Great American Poem by Billy Collins, and it's such a great poem. So thank you, Hillary, for this recommendation. And thank you, Pat, for inadvertently co-signing that recommendation. I've been enjoying Pat's readings as well on her channel. So thank you both so much for connecting with me over poetry and recommending poems to me. And it's nice to connect with others here on BookTube. That's the magic of BookTube. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll talk again soon. Hasta la próxima.